palace finally admits Meghan and Harry lied about Archie's birth. What if I told you that the British royal family, an institution built on centuries of tradition and protocol, got caught in one of the most brazen lies in modern royal history? Not about politics, not about money, but about something as basic as the birth of a baby. Prince Archie's arrival wasn't just unconventional. It was a masterclass in deception that left the palace scrambling, journalists questioning everything, and the public wondering if they could ever trust the royals again. Before we dive into this rabbit hole, hit that subscribe button because this story has layers that'll blow your mind. And you won't want to miss what's coming next. The official story seemed straightforward enough. Meghan Markle went into labor in the early morning hours, gave birth to Prince Archie. And later that day, the palace made their announcement: clean, simple, royal. But here's where things get twisted. When you actually examine the timeline, nothing adds up. The couple had previously committed to alerting the press when Meghan went into labor. That was their promise, their word. Then suddenly, radio silence for almost 12 hours. Think about that for a second. In an age where the palace can coordinate global announcements within minutes, they claimed they needed half a day to tell the world about a royal birth. The math doesn't work. When reporters finally started asking questions, they got carefully crafted responses that dodged the real issue and somehow made it the media's fault for misinterpreting the timing. Classic deflection tactics, but this time they were covering something much bigger. But the timeline confusion was just the beginning. During that mysterious window between the palace saying Meghan was in labor and the Instagram post announcing Archie's birth, journalists asked a direct question: has the baby already been born? Palace officials looked them straight in the eye and said no, not we can't comment, not we'll update you soon. They flat out denied it. That's not miscommunication or royal protocol. That's lying, plain and simple. What makes this even more disturbing is that Getty Images captured something that sent shockwaves through the internet. Photos showing what appeared to be a pillow or padding falling behind Meghan's dress, creating questions about whether her pregnancy bump was even real. Getty Images isn't some tabloid gossip site. They're one of the most reliable photo agencies in the world. When they publish something, it's been verified multiple times. Yet suddenly, people were staring at images that suggested the entire pregnancy might have been an elaborate performance. The first mainstream journalist brave enough to call out this circus was Wooten, who was an executive editor at The Sun back in 2019, while other outlets played it safe. Dan went straight at the palace with 8 direct questions about Archie's birth, something almost unheard of in royal journalism. The fact that Buckingham Palace actually responded should tell you everything about how rattled they were. They knew something looked seriously wrong, and they were in damage control mode. One of Dan's most explosive theories centered on the timing of every announcement. He noticed how perfectly everything aligned with American morning news cycles, specifically the 8 a.m. shows like CBS This Morning. And here's the kicker: Gayle King, who hosts that show, just happens to be one of Meghan's personal friends. Coincidence? The palace denied any intentional coordination. But when every single move seems designed to benefit the Sussexes' American PR game, those denials start sounding pretty hollow. This wasn't about privacy, it was about control. Harry and Meghan wanted to rewrite the rules of royal communication. But they forgot one crucial detail: when your child is in the line of succession, funded by taxpayer money, you don't get to cherry-pick transparency. You can't demand privacy while simultaneously staging photo shoots and releasing carefully curated documentaries. The hypocrisy was staggering, and the public noticed. But the pregnancy bump became its own storyline that the palace couldn't control. Social media users started noticing bizarre inconsistencies. One day it looked massive. The next day it appeared almost flat. Then came the videos that went viral worldwide, showing Meghan's stomach seemingly folding as she sat down. People weren't just curious anymore, they were convinced something was being hidden. Instead of addressing these concerns head-on, Harry and Meghan doubled down on secrecy, which only added more fuel to the fire. Mainstream media outlets were too scared to touch the story, too controversial, too close to conspiracy theory territory for their comfort. But that's exactly where journalism failed. The job isn't to protect powerful people from uncomfortable questions. It's to ask those questions, especially when the answers could impact public trust in major institutions. While outlets steered clear, the questions kept piling up and the silence became deafening. Then came the moment that made even Meghan's supporters do a double take. A video surfaced showing her twerking, dancing, and looking completely relaxed, supposedly around the same time she was in labor with Archie. The timeline made zero sense. How do you go from active labor to dancing like you don't have a care in the world? That video made people who had never questioned the official story start asking, Wait, what exactly is going on here? Even respected journalists like Camilla Tominey from the Daily Telegraph wrote about the inconsistencies, but refused to consider that the bump might be fake. When challenged, she responded as if even raising the question was beneath her journalistic standards. That attitude perfectly captured the problem. Journalists pretending they're too respectable to explore legitimate inconsistencies even when those inconsistencies involve potential deception by public figures. The chaos wasn't limited to the pregnancy timeline. The palace's entire communication strategy looked like amateur hour. Announcements were delayed. Emails supposedly went missing and timelines contradicted each other at every turn. At one point, they actually blamed a technical issue for not alerting the press on time in 2019, as if phones, backup systems, and multiple communication channels don't exist. It wasn't just unprofessional, it looked like a desperate cover-up attempt. But here's what really crossed the line: the Instagram announcement. That's how the world officially learned about Archie's birth, not through traditional royal channels, not via a formal press conference, but through a social media post. And during the window when journalists were asking if Meghan had given birth, palace officials denied it while knowing full well the baby was already born. That's not spin. That's not creative timing, that's institutional lying at the highest level. The photo call at Windsor Castle raised even more eyebrows. Harry and Meghan introduced Archie to the world at exactly 12:40 p.m. UK time, which perfectly matched the 7:40 a.m. broadcast slot for American morning shows. When Dan Wooten asked the palace directly if this timing was chosen to sync with US media schedules, they gave a cold, scripted response claiming it was based on introducing Archie to the Queen and Prince Philip. But that excuse made even less sense. Why would a major public photo op get scheduled around a private family visit? Another glaring mystery was the refusal to confirm where Archie was actually born. Every royal baby before him had their birthplace officially documented and announced. It's standard procedure, part of the historical record, so why the secrecy this time? If it was just a normal hospital birth, what was there to hide? The refusal to answer basic questions only made people more suspicious, not less. The line of succession implications make this controversy even more serious, as Prince Harry's son, Archie, is a direct descendant in the royal line. That requires proper legal documentation, formal announcement procedures, and official acknowledgement from the palace. But with this birth, the usual protocols were either delayed, vague, or completely missing. Royal births typically include details like the attending physician, the hospital, and formal statements. None of that happened in a traditional way. What made everything worse was how the palace initially tried to act like nothing was unusual, while contradictions piled up around them. Different outlets were told different things. Some heard Meghan was in labor. Others were told she'd already given birth. When reporters pressed for clarity, palace press officers got defensive and evasive. They even claimed at one point that announcement delays were due to email failures. In a palace with hundreds of staff members, advisors, and PR professionals, they expected people to believe an email didn't go out in time. Harry and Meghan thought they could modernize the monarchy on their terms, but they ended up creating chaos. Instead, they didn't seem to understand that when you carry the weight of royal titles, you don't get to control every narrative completely, and when you try to force it, the backlash can be absolutely brutal. Their actions didn't just raise questions. They created a complete vacuum of trust that conspiracy theories rushed to fill. The theories that emerged weren't random internet gossip. They were direct responses to the couple. Here's what we know beyond any speculation: Meghan and Harry lied about basic facts surrounding their son's birth. The palace backed those lies and helped spread them. Journalists were deliberately misled, and the public was left with more questions than answers. This wasn't about protecting privacy. It was about controlling information to serve their personal agenda, even if it meant compromising the integrity of the monarchy itself. The Windsor photo op timing, the delayed announcements, the contradictory statements, the refused documentation, each piece by itself might seem minor, but together they paint a picture of systematic deception. When you're dealing with the line of succession, with taxpayer funding, with centuries of royal tradition, those kinds of lies aren't just personal choices. They're attacks on the institution itself. What's most disturbing is how this pattern continued beyond Archie's birth. The same secretive approach, the same controlled narratives, the same refusal to follow established protocols. It became clear that Harry and Meghan saw royal traditions not as responsibilities to uphold, but as obstacles to overcome. They wanted the titles, the status, and the platform, but they rejected the accountability that comes with them. The mainstream media's reluctance to investigate these inconsistencies did a disservice to the public. When journalists become more concerned with appearing respectable than asking tough questions, they stop serving their actual purpose. The uncomfortable truth is that this story had enough red flags to warrant serious investigation, but most outlets chose silence over scrutiny. Even now, years later, the core questions remain unanswered. Where was Archie actually born? Why were basic announcements delayed and contradictory? What explains the physical inconsistencies in Meghan's pregnancy appearance? Why did every communication decision seem designed to benefit American media? Schedules over British royal protocol? The palace's refusal to provide clear answers has only reinforced public skepticism. This controversy represents something much bigger than just one royal birth. It's about trust, transparency, and the future of the monarchy itself. When an institution built on tradition and protocol starts lying about basic facts, it undermines everything it claims to represent. The damage goes far beyond Harry and Meghan's personal reputation. It strikes at the heart of royal credibility. The most tragic part is that this could have been avoided entirely. A straightforward announcement, honest timelines, and transparent communication would have made this a celebration instead of a scandal. But once you start lying, especially about something as fundamental as the birth of an heir, every subsequent action looks suspicious. The web of deception becomes impossible to untangle. What happened with Archie's birth announcement wasn't just bad PR. It was a fundamental betrayal of public trust. The monarchy's strength has always come from its predictability, its adherence to protocol, and its commitment to serving the people. When Harry and Meghan decided those values were optional, they didn't just damage their own credibility, they damaged the crown itself. The questions surrounding Prince Archie's birth may never be fully answered, but the impact of those unanswered questions will linger for generations. Trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild, especially when the people who broke it show no remorse or accountability. The palace's handling of this situation will be studied as a masterclass in how not to manage a crisis, and Harry and Meghan's role in creating that crisis will be remembered as one of the most damaging episodes in modern royal history. The royal family may never recover from the lies they told about Archie's birth, and frankly, maybe they shouldn't. When you betray the public trust this completely, the consequences should be permanent. What do you think? Can the monarchy survive this level of deception? Or is this the beginning of the end? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more explosive royal revelations that the mainstream media won't dare touch.